Hi class, this is Mr. Kinzer, and I'm excited about sharing with you the notes for lesson 32. This is the week that you had class on April 28th or 30th, and so this is the class that goes with the homework sheet that was sent home a few days ago, and so these are this is the section you need to take notes on and keep up with and enjoy and learn from. It's really fun for me as your teacher to give you these notes. It's a way of of keeping up with our assignments and the material that you guys need as you go through mid-high. And so if you're able to keep up and keep a good notebook, put these notes in your notebook, make sure that you paraphrase your history notes, and keep that in the paraphrase section. We are going to be collecting exams and tests from you all as you get close into May, toward the end of the last quarter. And we will be collecting your notebook for a grade as well, so you want to make sure that your notebook is kept up and that you have your corrections done, and you also have your paraphrase complete, and just all the papers are in order, that you've put all your notes in the notes section. It's not hard, you just have to go through it, and you have time. So some of you right now have some extra time, and you could actually really get that notebook in tip-top shape, and it would actually pull all your grades up. So let's say that you had a grade, let's say you have a good grade, let's say you have an 85 average in history. Well, let's just say that you get 100 on your notebook, that you've got all your papers are there, you've written out your history paraphrase each week, and you've done your corrections. So you've spent some time doing that. Well, because you got 100 on your notebook, you could expect to see your history grade push about 6 or 7 points higher. So you would now have a 92. And it just kind of depends on exactly what your grade is, but that's what an 85 would work out to be. So it's really well worth, you are really increasing your grade by keeping a good notebook. So I want to encourage you to do that. Near the end of May, you'll be turning those in and dropping them off at one of our drop-off days there at Building D. And if you got your homework done and you get your tests finished, your exams complete, you will go ahead and get credit for this year and a report card. However, if you don't get your work in, we cannot give you credit, so we want you to be sure to be diligent in that. I know many of you are, and we're looking forward to seeing, hopefully all of you, move ahead into the next year. So a couple other things that I wanted to mention to you is that all of you should be tuning in to the Zoom class, and most of you know about that. I know the Tuesday class was well attended, and the Thursday class will probably be well attended also. But those are going to be Tuesday or Thursday. You can go to either one. It takes place at 9 a.m., and Mrs. Van Omen is teaching that class. And in that class, you are going to have the principles for that week. So you'll be writing those down, and there'll be a discussion. And you'll also get a quiz on each week's vocabulary words. So make sure that you not only do the vocabulary assignment that's on your homework sheet, but that you get ready for that quiz. And it's just the vocabulary words. You're not getting quizzed over anything else in literature. No Shakespeare, no Ivanhoe, just the vocabulary words. So if you can do a good job on that, that will also raise your grade. There's a great opportunity there to learn those 10 or 12 words and just do a great job. You're going to grade those in class, and then you'll put your graded vocabulary word quiz in your folder. And the folder will be turned in on May 5th. That's coming up next Tuesday. There are 3 more dates for turning things in, but we need you to turn in all your work up to May 5th on May 5th so we can grade that. And then also on May 5th we will be handing back some papers for you that you have turned in before. So we want to make sure that you guys are aware, May 5th from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, there at Hoffmantown. You'll just drive up, your parents will drive up and we'll hand you those papers through the window. And not through the window, roll that window down first, and we'll be passing those out. You don't need to get out of your car. So it's a very short handoff thing. We're trying to be as safe as possible with the pandemic that we're dealing with, and we want to make sure everybody stays safe. Couple other things that you need to do. Make sure that you tune in to the Zoom class, take notes, follow the instruction of Mrs. Van Omen, and she's going to be giving you a good amount of work there that's important. That class should be about an hour long. I think this first one was longer, but it should end up to be about an hour, hour and 15 minutes, something like that, each week. Now, you all have finished your oceanography paper. So your oceanography paper, research paper, should be finished, and put that in your folder. That will be handed in on May 5th. If it's not in that folder when we collect it May 5th, it is late. So make sure you get it in for the next one, but you will get a grade reduction because it's late. So try to get it in on time. Make sure it's in your folder. Also, your research paper, that big paper that's worth so many points, you guys have worked on real hard. Please make sure that's also in the folder for May 5th, and we'll collect that as well. Remember, that has to be typed. That paper must be typed with 12-point type, and it must be double-spaced. So I'm going to go over a couple things, common errors, in just a moment so that you can kind of check your research paper, make sure you haven't done any of those common errors. Now, you will also, this week, take your Roman Empire map quiz. And so that map was put in with the handouts, and there is a key that your parents can use to grade that. So you need to let your parents grade that, and then your graded paper, and I think all of you know how to grade. You've been doing it all year, so there's 15 questions, so you put the number right over 15, like 14 out of 15 or 15 out of 15. Okay, so that's what you want to do, and of course we always grade for spelling. So if something is misspelled, you circle it, okay? So you put a minus SP on there as well. So there's a plus 15 out of 15, and then a minus 1 or minus 0 SP, whatever it is. So you can grade that pretty quickly. That goes also in your folder. So make sure that that quiz on the Roman Empire map goes in the folder, and that'll be graded. You'll already have a grade for that. Okay? Now there is a test on the Roman Empire, but that test will be part of your final exam. So please learn that empire map. Every feature will be on the test, and so be sure to that'll be an easy one, a minus 0 for you guys on that. So let me go over a few common mistakes that we see on research papers. Remember, you have to have a format. The title page is so important. It's the first page, and the only writing on there is the title right in the middle, where you use 12-point font. Don't use 14, don't use 16, don't use colors. It's just plain 12-point black type. And then you put your name down here in the bottom, your teacher's name, and the date. Okay, so that's the due date. So that would be stated right there on the bottom. That's all that goes on that page. Then your first page of text is the next page that comes, and you'll see your text written there. Do not put the title again on the top. There's a common mistake. People put a title. So I'm going to put a little X, because if you put your title up there, you're going to get points taken off. The title goes here. This is the only spot on your paper where the title goes, okay? Now, if you're somehow your computer word processor puts your name up there, or puts the title up there automatically, guess what you need to do? Yeah, get out your whiteout and white that off. Don't let your grade suffer just because your word processor doesn't cooperate, okay? Now, here's a mistake often made. There's no page 1. Do not put a 1 down here on the bottom. So there's a mistake. If your word processor puts a 1 on the bottom of your title page, white it out. If it puts a 2 here, white it out. You can always go and give a small little letter with your pen. You can always put that on by pen, but you need to start numbering with page 2. And we're only counting text pages. So 2 goes at the bottom of page 2 of your text, and of course that is full of text. So that's a common mistake. Now, let's say you have 7 or 8 pages. If you've written a long report, then you'll number each one of those. But your next page is your charts, maps, figures, pictures. So you put that on top. And remember, you need to have at least one visual chart or map that goes with your report. Many of you will have 5 or 6 pictures or maps, and you can have several pages of that. Remember, no pagination, no page number at the bottom. Don't paginate that page. That's not text. You only number text pages. Okay, now the next section after your charts, maps, figures, and pictures page will be your endnotes. And here's your endnotes. You put the title across the top, endnotes. Then I should see a 1, and then a 2, and a 3, etc. as you go down, and we'll see the different endnotes with that. And those endnotes go with a 1, 2, 3, 4. As they go through your paper, you're always putting the endnote in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, and you just number them off. Most of you will have probably 2 pages, some of you maybe 3 pages. I would suspect you're going to have somewhere about 30 endnotes, something like that, or more. So whatever you did not know, whatever is not common information that you wrote into your paper, that's something you learned from someone that you read, or you took notes from one of your sources. So that's where you use an endnote. So make sure that you do that. All information you learned that you got from someone else needs to be endnoted. Then your last page is your sources. We call that the bibliography sheet. Okay, so bibliography goes across the top there. Now you don't number this one, you just put each source in, but you put it alphabetical by author's last name. So you look at the author's last names, and that's the sequence that you list them. So if you have 5 sources, you'll have 5 bibliography source notes one for each of the sources, and then list them alphabetically by author's last name. Okay? So yeah, you'll be all set. This is exactly how you do a high school research paper or a college research paper, and you will be glad to know you're doing this just like you would in college. Now, Mrs. Van Omen went over some of the information for using Endnotes, and I'm not going to be repetitive because all of you need to study those notes well as you finish up your Endnotes. So we'll look forward to reading your papers. I want you to know that I read every single paper in my class. I read every word of every single paper, and I look forward to this. It's very interesting to me. A lot of times some of your papers are so good, I just feel like putting them in a magazine. I mean, they are wonderful papers, so I'm looking forward to that. Now we're going to be giving you a sample of some of the ways of studying for the literature exam. A lot of you are not taking that, but many of you are. I think actually I've had indications from probably the majority of the students are taking the literature exam. So let me go through this and talk a little bit about preparing for that literature exam, because as you read Ivanhoe is going to be tested, and of course all of you will get the literature exam dealing with the Julius Caesar and the Shakespeare. So all of you actually will be getting the literature exam, but the majority is also taking that Ivanhoe test, so you're going to get credit for that as well. So let's just go through a few answers together. I'm going to just give you questions and then pose the question. I'd like you to just write down what you think the answer is. So let me give you 15 of the questions, and I'm going to give you the answer here in just a moment after I pose the question. So I'm just going to put down number of my page 1 through 9, but we're going to give you 15 questions, okay? So number 1, let's go ahead and see if you can answer these. Write down the answer. Name the Jewish heroine of the story. Number 1, name the Jewish heroine of the story. Number 2, now you may want to pause this as you think, or you may know these answers very quickly. You might not need to pause it, but I'm going to kind of roll through the questions. You probably want to pause it. So number 2, name the woman at the tournament who was recognized for her loveliness and granted a special recognition. Number 3, she was given the title the Queen of blank and blank. She was given the title the Queen of blank and blank. Number 4, name the Jewish man that was almost robbed at Cedric's house. Number 5, name the 2 men in the first scene of the book. One is a swineherd, and the other is a jester. Name those 2 men. Number 6, name the title for the monk who was visited in the woods. And he's known as the clerk of blank. Number 7, this same monk has another, more famous name in history. He is known as Friar blank. Friar blank. Number 8, what is Ivanhoe's first name? Number 9, name the knight that visits the clerk in the story. Name the knight who visits the clerk in the story. Now, there may be several names. You can use any one of those names for the person, for this knight who visits the clerk. Number 10, what does Ivanhoe call himself? The blank knight. Number 11, name Cedric's house. Number 12, who is the Saxon leader with royal blood? Now this is a man, so just what's the name of the man's name who is a man who with royal blood? Saxon. Number 13, who does Cedric want this Saxon leader to marry? Number 14, name the castle of Front de Boeuf. Name the castle of Front de Boeuf. And number 15, our last one, give the name of the famous tournament where Brian de Bois Guilbert and Front de Boeuf and the other Normans combat. Give the name of the famous tournament. Okay, let's go over the answers. Number 1, Jewish heroine of the story is, of course, Rebecca. Number 2, the woman at the tournament who's recognized for her loveliness and chosen a special recognition, Rowena. Number 3, she was given the title, the Queen of Love and Beauty. So that was her title, the Queen of Love and Beauty. Number 4, the Jewish man who was robbed, almost robbed, at Cedric's house, Isaac of York. Number 5, name the 2 men of the first scene of the book. Girth, who is the swineherd, and who's the jester? Right, Wamba, son of Witless. Okay, number 6, name the title for the monk in the woods, the clerk of Copmanhurst. Number 7, now this clerk of Copmanhurst is really who in history? Friar Tuck, right, the great fighting monk of Robin Hood, Friar Tuck. Number 8, what is Ivanhoe's first name? You got it, Wilfred. Number 9, what is the name of the knight who visits the clerk in the story? So if you remember, this black knight rides up, and his name is the Black Sluggard. That's one of them. Richard the First. That's Richard I, the King of England. Or you could have down Le Noir Fainéant. Le Noir, which means the Black Sluggard. Fainéant, which is sluggard in French. So the Black Sluggard, Richard I, or Le Noir Fainéant. And number 10, what does Ivanhoe call himself? The Disinherited Knight. He calls himself Disinherited because he was kicked out of his home. He left his home. Let me go up here and put number 10, Disinherited. Number 10. Yep, so the Disinherited Knight. Of course, that's kind of central to the whole story, that his father, Cedric, disinherited him. Number 11, what is Cedric's house? Rotherwood. And number 12, we have the Saxon leader with royal blood. That is Athelstane. And his full name is Athelstane of Königsberg. Number 13, who does Cedric want this Saxon leader to marry? Well, he would hope that Rowena, the lovely Rowena, would marry Athelstane. And of course, Rowena is the ward, or like an adopted daughter, to Cedric. Number 14, name the castle of Front de Boeuf and that is Torquelstone. Torquelstone is Front de Boeuf's castle, and that's where a lot of the story takes place. That's where Isaac is tortured. That's where the knight de Bracy tries to take Rebecca for his sweetheart, and she resists. That's where the attack comes. We're going to be talking more about that later. And number 15, give the famous tournament, Ashby de la Zouche. So that's where the famous tournament takes place, and the Norman knights fight against the Saxons. We're going to go ahead and move to our part 2 next, and we'll have our history notes. So let's go to part 2. Thank you.